Hello and welcome to Mr. Ken's Classroom, where I'm running live online training in Oracle and Linux. This video is by way of a promotion for my PLSQL course, which starts next Sunday. You can read through that if you're interested, although some of this stuff's in the course notes. Right, let's start with the course notes. These are the course notes, and you'll see there's 247 pages. I'll go through the first 7 pages. If you're looking at this video from the link in the WhatsApp group, you should also have a link to a file containing the first 7 pages plus the sample tables that we use in the training database. Now the course starts not with the course notes but with Jitsi meeting. I use Jitsi. I set it up in my Google Calendar. I click on Jitsi Meet and I can join a meeting. What I send you is a link. That's not the right link, that's last week's course. But a link like that I will post to each person who's going to come on the course, and you can join the meeting. Now, unlike Teams, this doesn't, you don't have to wait to enter. You join the meeting straight away. And also, I don't use Teams because Teams won't let me record it. I'm using a Linux desktop, not Windows, and Teams won't share its microphone. And I don't use Zoom because Zoom costs money if you want to do more than, I think it's 40 minutes. But you can join the meeting, and then I will share my screen, which I can't do now because nobody else in the meeting. Actually, I prefer it looking like that. You can open the chat, so I will post in there links to the course notes and any other links. You can raise a hand if you have a question during the course. You can look at participants because there's nobody in yet except me. You can also do other actions to customize what you're looking at and exit from the group. Turn on your microphone when you join, so we know we can hear each other. And also you might want to turn on your camera. Boo, hello. Actually, you don't want to look at me, do you? Well, not that size picture anyway. So I'll turn my camera off again. That'll just tell you that I'm old and I've been doing this for a long time, which hopefully means I know what I'm talking about. I don't need the microphone on, not for Jitsi. Let's close that. And next we're going to look at the course notes. So it's PLSQL programming. It's my name, it's my email address. We're using a mix of 11G because I'm using 11G Express Edition in the cloud because it was easier to set up an 11G database in the cloud than a 12C database because they made a lot of changes for administrators between 11G 12C. Not a lot of difference for SQL or PLSQL. We also could use 19C because I have a virtual machine running that. I'll show you that in a moment. If you're going to pay for the course, I already show you this in the group, or I will show you it in the group. You can use Cash App, which is a neat app you can load on your phone, Google Pay, both of which are free, or PayPal. And I will record each session. So one thing you get included, apart from the course notes and access to the database, is recordings of all the sessions. Now, these 7 pages you can look through yourself if you open the link. This explains how long I've been doing this, what I'm trying to do, how the notes were developed in the classroom, but I'm using them online now. The prerequisites: you need to know something about SQL. You should have attended the course really, but if you know what a select statement is and perhaps an insert, an update, and delete, that will probably do. The course is a short set of classes on a Sunday, so they're 2-hour courses because I used to do 3 hours, but people said it was too long, and I think they're right. 2 hours is about right. And you'll get this full set of 200 and, whoops, it's gone. How did that come up? 247 pages of course notes. What you should try and do during the course, you should use your microphone to ask me questions, listen to my answers, and obviously listen to what I'm saying. If you want, turn on your video and say hello. If you don't want the video on, just turn it off again. But asking questions and participating is the best thing to do during this sort of course. And the other thing you can do as participation is try out the examples. A lot of people just sit and watch me do the examples. That's not a good way of learning it. You should be trying the examples yourself. Now, we're not going to do the exercises. There are lots of exercises during the classes because it would take too much time. So during the SQL course, when we decided to do 2-hour classes, we decided we would do the exercises between classes. So you'll have a whole week to do any exercises between the two classes. Start times, well, it looks like it will be 2 p.m. and 11 p.m. BST time for Sunday. Now, when I did the SQL course, we did 2 classes a week on Thursday and Sunday, so if people want to do that, we might try doing that as well. Otherwise, it's going to last 12 weeks. Now, there are loads of handouts that come with the course. You'll find them in the online training folder. And as well as handouts, there are overviews of the course. There are some posts, there are quizzes and the answers to the quizzes. There are setup files and the zip files that you need. So you'll find this here. Again, if you've got this file, that's the easiest way. This is my ice drive, which I prefer to view like that. And here you'll find Linux handouts, Oracle handouts on things like SQL and PLSQL. In there's date and times PDF, best practices, and PLSQL never do. I'll go through them because they're quite good. We go back, we've got overviews. So full overview of the course is that one. So this is the on-site requirements you're doing in the classroom. This is a bit you're interested in. What we're going to cover: why use PLSQL, variables, select statements, in detail there, everything that's covered. Sorry, I had to stop and let the cat in the room. Yes, details of everything that we're going to cover that is in there. And if I go back to the notes here, you'll find the course contents there. Now, the course setup, before the course starts, you should try and download and unzip the file plsql.zip, which you'll find there. It's on the ice drive in the zip folder. Download that, unzip it, and what you'll get is a set of files. Just bear with me, I'll show you them. There we go. There's a zip file. This is the folder I zipped. So what you get is a setup, which is files that I use to create the environment. These ones down here, which you're really not interested in because you have to be an administrator to run these. All the ones beginning user. These ones create the tables that are used in the course. So you might need those to refresh the tables. I'll show you how to use them during the course. And the other thing you get is a load of PLSQL example files, starting with anonymous blocks of code, all of these. This is stuff we're going to write during the course. We move on to using cursors, using loops, using subprograms, which is procedures and functions and packages, and using triggers. So loads of sample codes, more in there. Interesting stuff. Something I saw there was going to explain. Yes, example. That's example code as well. So those are used during the course in SQL Developer. That's the other thing you need. You should have installed SQL Developer. Now, if you haven't got it for 64-bit Windows, you can download it here. If you're using Linux, Unix and Mac or 32-bit Windows, you can find it from the Oracle website. I'm using Linux, so what I do here is I open a terminal window and I use what's called an alias, which opens SQL Developer for me. And then quit that window. and there I'm in SQL Developer in a moment. And what you will get is access to the database. So during the course you'll have your own user. I'll number them things like PLSQL1, PLSQL2, PLSQL3, 4, etc. With your own password and access 24/7 to the database because it runs in the cloud. This is a hangover from the SQL course, so we don't want that or that. But these users here I've logged in as. Now you might have logged in as user 77 using the cloud. If you haven't, I'll show you in a minute how this works. Yes, after course access, if you want something to keep, because Cloud Cluster's database isn't going to be there forever, probably just the 12 weeks of the course, you can download a Virtualbox Vm running 19C. You can get that from here. This is in the setup folder on the ice drive, and I'll show you what this looks like if I kill this, because we're not going to look at that again, and I open VirtualBox, which I think is there. That's a saved version of my VirtualBox virtual machine. This is running Oracle Linux. It's running Oracle 19C database. And again, looking at aliases that I mentioned, this is running Linux, but you don't need to know how to use Linux. You can connect to this from SQL Developer on your laptop, which is what I do. I'll show you how to do that on the course, but just to show you it's there. Here, if I type SQL1, it will run SQL Plus and log me in to user 1. So there I'm in a 19C database. A nice thing about VirtualBox is if you shut it down, it remembers where you were. If you say save the machine state, and it comes back up where it was. So like I said, I'll show you how to use that on the course. So that's another thing you get. Let's wait till that finishes. Go on. There you go. We don't need that. Let's go back to this window and look at that. Well, we'll come to that in a minute when we get here. Let's kill it. Like I said, I'll come back to it. So the actual course. So you need a zip file. You need SQL Developer. You join the course view Jitsi. You get a copy of the course notes. The course notes, you can read through this yourself. That's what the course does. It's an introduction to PLSQL. The aims and objectives are that you become au fait with creating and testing stored programs and triggers. That's programs being procedures, functions and packages. And these are the sections that we're going to go through. I'll show each of those to you in a minute. Now the best way to get value out of this is you watch me do it and listen. You understand what I'm doing. If you don't understand, ask me questions. And then you do it yourself. And do it yourself means doing the examples and doing the exercises between the classes. You can also try out stuff if you've done any PLSQL before. If you want to try out some SQL, you can do that. Experiment, try out new things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Lean and be leaned on. That works best in the classroom when you can ask other people but learn by your mistakes. And it's supposed to be fun, so enjoy yourselves. Also consider answers to these questions. Do you want to learn something in particular on the course? Do you want to be able to do something in particular by the end of the course? At the end of the notes you'll find the sample data used on the course, and in some sections you'll find self-study sections, which are bits and pieces which are nice to know that we don't have time to cover. There's a list of contents again, similar to what you saw above. These are the sections of the notes. I usually do about 10 pages an hour, So in a 2-hour class I do 20 pages. So hopefully we'll do what is PLSQL and variables in the first class. We'll do the select statement through conditionals in the second class. It'll work like that. It's not exactly 20 pages. It was in the SQL class. I'm not sure how that happened, but it doesn't matter. If I stop somewhere, I'll pick up where I left off in the next class. Now this is the actual course notes. So we start with what is PLSQL. I'm not going to go around that. What I'm going to show you is how we connect. For revision, you need to know about these SQL statements. So we're going to have a look at that. To look at that, we're going to use SQL Developer. So it says here, without your tutor, open SQL Developer and connect to the training database. So to connect to the training database, you'll be given a user like PLSQL 21, for instance, which is what I'm going to use. Although I'm going to show you 77 here. So you'll put in your username and your password, which I'll give you. Up here, I generally put in the username because it's a connection for that user, and I put at cloud because I know it's not VirtualBox. So I've got other connections like that one there, user one at VirtualBox. Now if you're connecting to the cloud, different to VirtualBox, to the cloud, it's that IP address, it's that port, and it's that, because it's an 11G database, it uses a SID XE, and you can test that. If I ran it, it would connect to the database. And I can drop down user 77 and I can see the tables that we're using. There. Oh, actually 77 doesn't have any tables. You'd have to look at your PLSQL1 user. Sorry, 77 is a read-only user. You can't do a lot in there. Let's leave that for the moment. It was for the SQL course. A real user, like user 35, has tables. There we go. So, you log in with the username I give you. To protect your user, change your password using the password command, and look at the field list of tables there. Just in passing, that's the connection for user 35 to the cloud there. If you're going to use the VM and you try and connect to the VM, I do have a video on connecting to the Virtualbox VM there. You'll see a difference. That's an IP address on my local network because the virtual machine is running on my laptop. There's my username. This one's at VirtualBox, so I can tell the difference between this and the cloud. Username and password. Oh, I forgot to say, if you tick there, you don't have to type the password in each time. And it's different. This one uses 1521 as the default port. And it doesn't use a SID because it's a 19C database. From 12C onward, Oracle used a service name. So if it's 11G, 10G, it's a SID. If it's 12C forwards to 19C, it's a service name, and the service name there is ORCL. But it won't work if I run it now because the virtual machine is not running. But like I said, I'll show you that on the course. Okay, what we're going to do here is, if you haven't already, unzip the PL zip file, do it before the course, and find in the setup folder example.sql. So what you get here is a complete set of the SQL that I use on my SQL course. So it's in the zip folder in PLSQL in setup, and it's called examples. What you can do, if you've got a window open here, one of these windows have to be open, because if you close them, you can't drag that over here. But if you open the query window, any of those, and you've got a query window open, then you can drag this over here. And these are examples. It's quite long actually. There are, can we go to the bottom like that? Yeah, 372 lines. Go back to the beginning. Each of these, well, almost all of them, some of them have got errors in them on purpose, will run against the database. And you run them by clicking on the green arrow or by typing Control and Enter. It tells you if you go there. There we go, Control and Enter. So the idea there was, if you don't know a lot of SQL, that will refresh your memory or teach you some new SQL. Let's go back here. The other thing you might want to look at is create order.sql. So you have to refresh your tables because of errors or because you updated them and you want them back as they were. If you go back into, sorry, that one, in setup you'll find create order. What this does is recreates the 4 tables, the order tables within the database: supplier, sale order, sale line and product. It does that by dropping them, recreating them, and then inserting rows into the tables. And if you want to run the whole thing, see here, I'm just running one query. Click in the query, run a query. You can run a single query with that button. But I want to run the whole file here. To run the whole file, click that button, which is generally what you do when you're running PLSQL. And that refreshes the tables. So if the tables have been changed and you want to set them back as they were at the start, you can run that file. So the first thing we do is get connected to the database and run these files so that you've got the idea of how to run things in SQL Developer. That's done. Right, then we go on and look at how to save output, how to customize developer, and the block structure when writing simple PLSQL blocks, which are called anonymous blocks because they don't have names, they're not stored in the database. It brings you to this sort of thing as an example block, which has an insert and an update, and the first exercise in the course there is to create a similar block. So the way course works is all the examples use the tables sale line, product, their product, sale line, sale order and supplier. I clicked on one so it'll come up there. All the exercises are based on the film tables, which are film, member and rental. So I do something like that, and the exercise solution is very similar to what we've just done, but using the other tables, and you write the exercise solution between the classes. Now if we track through the other things, you'll see what I've done here. I've searched for the string objectives. So this first session looks at how you declare variables and constants and give them values. So I can page down, you can see what's there. Then if I go to the next section, this is using the select statement within, because there's more to it. You can't just put a select statement in PLSQL. You have to use an into clause and make sure you only get one row back. So we look at doing that. We also look at various types of variables, row type variables, type variables, PLSQL records. Next section after that is conditional statements, i.e. adding an if statement to your code, and going on to trapping errors in the code with an exception section, looping, iteration and looping, going round and round and round in loops. So as you go through, you're building on the piece of code that you wrote in the last exercise, last example, in the next class. Cursors and what they are. You see the squiggly red lines there? This is annoying. I like white on black. which you get by going Tools, Options. I'm using OpenOffice. Actually, it's LibreOffice, come to think of it, which is an open office really. If I choose white, apply, OK. What you can't see reappears because it won't show it for some reason, white on black, but it shows it black on white. So what you see there is how you go about going around in a loop, fetching rows from a database. The next section is creating procedures, functions and packages, storing them in the database. On to triggers, which are different. A procedure, a function, a package you run, you execute. A trigger runs based on an SQL statement, like an insert, an update or a delete. So they're different. There's lots more on packages. And then we go on to dynamic SQL, using files, so text files. Now you can manipulate them in the database. Using what are called reference cursors. Come on the course, you want to see what they are. Collections, which are like clever variables, I suppose. Bulk SQL, ways of selecting huge amounts of data very quickly. System packages, these are built-in packages that Oracle supply. Let's go back to the beginning there. Now back at the beginning of the notes because I was searching for objectives, but at the end of the notes you'll find sample data, all the tables that we're using. And if you're familiar with the RD diagrams or data models, you'll see the data models for the tables. There are the 4 order tables. I'll point them out before you do the examples and exercises during the course, and the film tables. That's it really. I think the course is well worth the money. I'll just turn that back on again. Because of all the extras you get all my sample files, you get access to the database, you get a full set of PLSQL notes, which I've been using for years. I mean, if you look at the dates on some of them, they're 2013. That was the last time I updated the dates. I was running this course, this actual course, when 9/11 happened. And we stopped the course and sat watching the TV news. And that was in 2001. So I've been running this course for at least 20 years. And I think it's well worth the money. If you don't think so, let's have a quick look before we finish here. And let's look at QA. You're a big training company. And look for PLSQL training. See how much they charge. And I thought they would have come up top, but they haven't. There we are. PLSQL fundamentals from QA. There we go. This is a 2-day course and it costs £1,500. So 2 days is about 12 hours. You're getting 24 hours for 50 quid. So if you think my costs are expensive, you're way off the mark. It's really cheap. You should be biting my hand off for this. But anyway, that's entirely up to you. I've got people interested. I've got enough people interested to run the course. But if you turn it down, I'm afraid it's your loss. So that's it for now. If anybody's interested in the course, having seen this, watch the WhatsApp group, vote in the poll so I know how many people I'll have for the 2 o'clock and the 11 o'clock classes, and I will post details about payment. Anybody who pays gets invited to gets a personal invite. This isn't going to be an open group, to a PLSQL training group, and in there I'll be posting things like the course notes and the invites to the classes. And that's it for now. Thank you very much and goodbye.